On today's episode of the NASM CPT Podcast with me, Rick Richey, I explore this question. Can I make a living as a personal trainer? I think these are great questions to ask. So we run scenarios on how much money you need to make per hour to make the national average income. We also discuss other options to add to your personal training to help make more money. And we prove to my mom and dad, and maybe yours too, that this job that you enjoy doing, you can actually make a living at. All right, so make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family, and leave a 5-star review. Now, here's the episode. Can I make a living as a personal trainer?
You're listening to the NASM CPT Podcast with Rick Richey, winner of the Share Care Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM CPT Podcast. My name is Rick Richey, and I have a question. The question today is this valuable? If you are a personal trainer, this might be the most valuable question that you can ask yourself, and that if you're young, you can explain to your parents. Right? The question is, can I make a living as a personal trainer? And I gotta be honest, I think it's a good question. I know how it goes. Like, hey son, I know you're having fun. I know it's a fun job and it's nice to do for a few years when you're in college or out of college, but you're nearly 30 now, so maybe it's time to find a real job, or you have a kid now, so maybe consider a more financially supportive path. Or, well, let me tell you something. For me, I am now 48 years old and I have 3 kids, one applying to college, 2 more that will be going to college, hopefully. So when am I going to get a real job? And I gotta say that I've been having this job for a while, right? My question is, do I need to get a real job? Do I need to get a different job? And better yet, here's a better question. Is personal training a real job? And I would like to propose that it most certainly can be, though it is not always treated as if it is. I'll also caveat this with saying that it's not for everyone. It's cool. It's cool. A lot of people do the job, but it's not for everyone. I mean, it can be a grind. It can be a hustle. It can be, not a real job for some people. But I also will say it's not just people dependent. It's also location dependent. That you might be in a place in this country where doing this as a, quote, real job, or as a job that will actually lead to where you need to be to support yourself financially, and grow and build and expand when it comes to income and opportunity. It's just not available for everyone. I grew up in a small town in Alabama. Now, I don't know what the personal training is like in Florence, Alabama, or in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, or where I spent the first few years of my life in Tuscumbia, Alabama. I don't know. Sheffield, I know you don't have this. But the other in our little Quad City area right there on the Tennessee River, about 20 miles from Mississippi and 20 miles from Tennessee, I can't imagine that there's a lot of personal training. And there are a lot of very capable people that would be incredible personal trainers. But it may not be the place that will support most people in order to make a living full-time as a personal trainer. And there are going to be a few people who make the cut. And usually the ones who make the cut are the stick-with-it ones. And so if you have an opportunity to do another job, then a lot of people will go on and move on and let's do another job, because it's hard to stick with it, especially with every new crop of university students and university graduates going, I liked sports science, so be a personal trainer. And then it's just more personal trainers into the market in a very small market, or in a place where the market's not supported whatsoever, that people don't find the value or the surrounding economics of the place don't support the pay. But let's talk about it, because it's not for everyone. It's not for every place, but you can make a pretty good living, and your income. So it's going to depend on two things. Your income is going to depend on two things. How much you get paid, which sounds like that's your income, but you work per hour per session, then that also means how many hours can you work? And so let's explore, excuse me, coughing right into the microphone. The average income in the United States is almost, not quite, but almost $65,000 per year. So working an average of 50 weeks per year, that means that your weekly income is $1,300. So how many hours would it take per week to make the average income in the United States? So we got to explore a few things. How much would you be getting paid? So what if you got paid as a personal trainer $20 per session? How much would it cost? How much would it take? How many hours do I have to work to make $65,000 a year working 50 hours, working 50 weeks out of the year? It would take, at $20 per session, 65 hours at $20 per hour to make $65,000. I'm going to say that that's not a reasonable ask. I know, because I don't train anywhere near that many clients, and it's exhausting. Already exhausting. And so 65 hours a week, I don't care. No, you work 65 hours a week. That's an insane hustle. And I want better for you. I want more money for you, less hours for you. I'd like to get closer to what it would look like to be a 40-hour work week, and then see if we can cut back on that even more. So instead of $20 per session, let's say that you're making $30 per session. So they're hour-long sessions, none of this 30-minute business. Let's just keep it simple. What if you made $30 per hour session? It would then take 44 hours per week, or 9 hours per work week, 9 hours per day in the work week, so 5 days, at $30 per session to make $65,000 a year. So $30, $31, maybe that gets you to 40 hours a week. So if you're making $30 an hour and you work 40 hours a week, that gets you close to making that $65,000 a year. In fact, the real average, when I looked it up, was something like $63,750. So actually $30 an hour might get you real close, actually, to that, the real average. I just raised it up to 65 to make it a nice round number. But let's keep going. That was $30. What if you made $40 per hour session? Rick, how does somebody make $40 an hour? Well, I will say that there are large corporate gyms that do personal training. Yeah. They're top tier. They'll get close to the top tier, but they pay $40 an hour per session. And it only takes, at that point, 33 hours per week at 6.6 hours per 5-day work week at $40 per session to make $65,000 a year. Well, what if we took that number up another $10? What is it? $50 per session that you get. It would take 26 hours per week, 5.2 sessions per 5-day work week at $50 a session to make $65,000. That's the average income of workers in the United States. Well, that's not bad, But is $50 an hour even possible? Well, $50, that's probably the most I've ever seen at corporate gyms. The most I've ever seen is that. Now, they may have some bonus structures that get the income higher than that, but $50 is about the corporate ceiling that I've seen. And the reason being is that even with those bonuses and those structures, they're not always easy to get. In fact, they're really challenging to get. But I will say this, you can also have a minimum amount of hours that you work, and they do cover insurance. Now, if you're making $65,000 a year, it's possible that the ADA could cover some of your insurance in the marketplace, but then you, if you're independent, you would be in charge of paying for your own. But this is why so many trainers end up going independent, though, is that they can make more money per session. And let's look at it. Some corporate gyms also, the pay rate is commission based. And the highest I've seen in real life, IRL, the highest I've ever seen is 50%. Now, I know that some say that they will pay more, but the volume of training is often unrealistic and unattainable. But it's possible that if you do commission-based training, that you can get more than 50%. But 50% is the most I've seen, and that means that most are even under 50%. But even with the average percentage of a gym that pays their trainers 35%, which can be somewhat generous, especially for starting trainers, then you still have to work. And I'm going to break into this a little bit more and then talk about some questions that I ask AI. And then it's going to give us a little more insight, and I'm going to break it down for you. So this episode of the NASM CPT Podcast is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources, get the Edge app to schedule and program clients, enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access to free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One. So I proposed this question to Gemini. Gemini is the Google AI. And I asked this question: what's the average cost of a personal trainer in the US? And this is what it stated. So I'm going to read it and then we'll break it down. In the US, the average cost of personal trainer ranges from $40 to $100 per hour, with a typical national average around $55 to $70 per session. This is not what you get paid. This is what people pay for training. Monthly costs often range from $200 to $600+ depending on frequency, while specialized, high demand, or big city trainers can exceed $100 to $150 per hour. The cost breakdown by type and location. The average hourly rate is between $50 and $80 per hour. Budget trainers between $25 and $50 per hour, and premium specialized trainers $100+ per hour. Can I just pause there for a moment? Talk of specializations. I don't know if you know this, but NASM has a lot of specializations. So there's the CPT, which is the certified personal trainer. But we also have the corrective exercise specialist, and we have the performance enhancement specialist, and we have the wellness coaching, and we've got the nutrition coaching, and we've got the seniors, which is a great market to get into if you're considering. I know everybody wants to work with athletes, but wow, working with the seniors is great business for personal training. There's a golf specialist, MMA conditioning specialist. There's a heart specialist. There's so many options with NASM to increase your specialization and to diversify and build those specializations that make you more in demand. And that leads to being able to charge more per session, because you're very focused on the audience that you are building. So just want to point that out. Also want to point out that I live in New York City. So if you're in major cities like New York or Los Angeles, then you're going to see higher rates compared to more suburban and rural areas. And I'm assuming a lot more here in New York, where I live now, than in Northwest Alabama, where I grew up. But there are other options. There are other options that we can add to it, not just replace it, but add to it. You can look at doing group training. This is one of the best things where you start to give your prices. And let's say that as you're giving prices out, that they go, it's too many money. As my youngest son would say, that is too many money. And then you can go, well, what would, let's say it's $100 per session. And you say, well, what would it be like for you? Would it be feasible if I were to work with you and a couple other people at the same time? Would you be willing to do that? And that would allow you to pay much less than $100 per session. Do you want the one-on-one, or do you still want the personal training without me just being there counting reps, that we can work together and I'm pointing out, but I'm doing that with other people as well. So you're not being missed. It's not a big group where I'm so focused on the few people that really need help that I also don't get a chance. Would you be interested in group training, like a small group? And if that's the case, well, what about you get $30 per person? That's a lot less than $100 per session. And let's say you get 10 people in the class, and look at that, $300 minus the space rental. That's a big profit, far more profit than you would get if you were just a personal trainer doing one-on-ones. Is that the right answer? I don't know, but it is a great answer. Doing group is a great answer. Would you be interested in training for less money, but sharing the space and sharing me in that hour so that you can still get the outcomes and you can still get the focus, we still get the programming? Maybe. Also consider teaching classes, not just small group training where they're paying for that, but also teaching a class where you are the one leading the class. And that not only pays you for the class, not quite what group training would. So you might work for a corporate gym where they're paying you to teach a class, but also that builds the opportunity that you might use in order to get more personal training clients, which is how the most I've ever trained in my life was because I taught about 6 group classes. So just teaching classes, and people were like, oh, do you train? And I said, yes, I do. And then eventually I just was training so much that I started cutting down on my classes, because what I really wanted to do, what my passion was group. Now, I'm going to throw this out there too, is that you can explore what it's like to go independent as a personal trainer, and you can charge what works for you and you can charge what works for your client, and you don't have to lower your rates. You can discount your rates if people need it. But if you're leaving a corporate gym that is charging them $100 and it's paying you $35, and you leave there, you could say, oh, well, I also now cost $100, and it's the same amount they were already paying. Now, that's my favorite way of doing it, but I know that that's not commonly how it goes. So many trainers starting out are going to have to split the difference. And again, I don't suggest it, but you have to split the difference, where if the client is paying $100 at the corporate gym and you're getting paid $35, then if you just meet them in the middle, that would be a cost to the client of $82.50. Now, that's already 2.3 times more than what you were getting paid. Now, if you're doing it in a garage, you're doing it in their garage, in your garage, in a park, then that's probably free. And if you have to rent a space at the gym in order to train, then it's not going to be 2.5 times, 2.3 times more. But you will still be making significantly more money per session if you go independent. I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but let's talk about online coaching. You can go into online coaching and explore that. And that's another way of making money in this world. You can do virtual sessions, which cost about the same as in-person training sessions. I charge the same if somebody was like, hey, Rick, I want to train with you online. I have 2 people that I train that are in Colorado, and I love it. Train them. I charge them the same as I do my one-on-one. I charge them a little discount, like a friends and family discount, because they found me through either listening to the podcast or through search, and they found my blogs. And so they reach out to me, and they're in the fitness world, but they also want to be personal trainers. So as a personal trainer, I charge them less to do a full one-on-one session. But mostly I charge about the same as, if somebody just says, hey, I want to train with you. They're not in the fitness industry. It will cost the same if you are in person with me or as if we're doing a virtual session or a remote session. Now, there's something else that people do, which is selling programming. And programming is just, I've written out workouts and I deliver those workouts to you. I don't get on a Zoom call or FaceTime. I'm not watching you go through it. I literally am just creating and delivering workouts and follow a template, make maybe a few changes based on what somebody may tell me, but a lot of times people don't even do that. And it costs so much less for a person to follow a program that you develop, but it's mostly hands off. And you can do that, but it's a lot of volume. You have the potential because everything's online and everything's automated and your payments automated and your delivery system's automated, that literally if people come across it and they like your stuff, they can buy it and it's cheap for them. And then based on volume, you can get paid a lot of money. Now, no one of these options means that you should leave your corporate training job. No one of these options mean that you should stop being a personal trainer to go do this other type of fitness work. I'm just saying that as a personal trainer and in the fitness world, you have a lot of options to make good money. But don't necessarily leave your corporate job. Listen, I own an independent training gym, series of gyms in New York City, and I've seen many trainers go independent and go right back to the corporate gym because it's too hard to develop the relationships that can help you build your clients outside of these big box gyms. So know that going independent seems like a good idea, but there are challenges within that as well. But let's circle back around. Can you make a living as a personal trainer? I'm going to say yes. Yes, you can. Because as of this month, I have been a trainer for exactly 24 years. That's it. 24 years. So you can do it. You can do it. And you can make a pretty good living at it. I do it in New York City where things are expensive, but I can also charge more here in this place. Let's look at another example of, remember when I said let's say they pay $100 at the gym and you meet them in the middle, you're getting paid $35, you're going to meet them in the middle. Well, what if you didn't? What if you kept charging them $100? So $100 per hour. It will obviously take 13 hours to make $1,300 per week, which is what you need to do for 50 weeks in order to make $65,000. You can do that. Or you can do what I do, which is work more than that. You don't say, oh, $65,000, I'm charging this much money. I am only going to work 13 hours a week so I can make the average of what everybody else makes. I suggest doing more. And personally, I try to average 20 sessions per week. And if, let's say I charge $100 an hour, that would be $2,000 a week. That'd be $2,000 a week if I charge $100 an hour. That leaves 20 more hours in the week where I can do something else. I can be productive. I can be supportive. And I can continue to work to help make a difference in other ways. As Cypress Hill said, and I mentioned this on the podcast before, in Rock Superstar, it's that talking part in rap songs. Older rap song, well, all the parts are talking parts. I mean, like when they were actually talking. And he says, it's a cool job, but it's still a job. This is a cool job. This is a great job. It's a fun job. It's a fun job, but it's still a job. but it's still a job part. And you can't forget that. And when you start treating it like a job where it goes beyond, this is cool, I like this is cool. When you move beyond that, and we start looking at this as a job, as a means of employment, and as a potential career, then I'm telling you, the opportunity is there, and you could do very, very well at this job. And if you're in bigger markets where you could charge more and still maintain high levels of volume, you can make pretty good money. You make pretty good money doing this gig. And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed this gig for 24 years. And so you better believe it. In February next year, I'm going to be doing a 25th anniversary. I'll throw myself a little party. So I want to say this. I want to say thanks for listening. Thanks and a shout out to my producer, Eric Sorensen. Like, subscribe, share, leave a 5-star review. And if you want to reach out to me, hit me up. You can do so on Instagram at dr.rickrichy or email me, rick.richey@nasm.org. Y'all keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.